Hey everybody! My name is Paul McCormack and I am the South Carolina State Park Director, and I am here today at beautiful Myrtle Beach State Park to do a little segment on cooking. A little bit about myself: I've been with the Park Service for 25 years and I spent 2 of those years right here at Myrtle Beach State Park as a park ranger. And I'm glad to be back here today, spend a little time in the woods and make you something delicious. Looking forward to it. Alright, can you see me? Awesome. Hey everybody! Back with the Dutch ovens we're going to cook with today. So I love cooking with Dutch ovens. I was a scoutmaster and a Boy Scout growing up, and so now when I camp I have a couple of these because they're so easy to use once you figure them out. A little bit intimidating if you've never done it before, so we're going to try and take a little bit of that intimidation away today by sharing some secrets to make it a little bit easier so you don't make some of the mistakes I made early on when you get going with this Dutch oven. So come on, let's go cook with some Dutch ovens today. So I brought with me 2 Dutch ovens today. Now when you go out looking for Dutch ovens, they come in so many different shapes and sizes, and it really depends upon how many people you're trying to feed, how big a meal you need to make. I bought a couple of big ones because I'm hoping to share some of the food we make today. And if you have a smaller family, they come in a little bit smaller, but they're all made out of cast iron. And cast iron is the thing that many of our grandparents used to cook in at home, and it's really a relatively low maintenance once you figure out how to use it. So you never use soap on a cast iron, only water to get it clean. And you season it with some oil. Typically they come seasoned, but after a couple of uses you can just put some oil in there, wipe them down inside and out underneath the lid. As far as the outsides go, you just wipe them off, hose them down, but you do need to keep them dry. After you get them wet, you need to dry them pretty quickly, otherwise you get little rust spots. You can actually see on the top how we failed a little bit of time to time, so there's a little bit of spots in there. And if it gets too bad, you can scrub them with a wire brush and re-season them and take care of all that rust. So they last a really long time. They do take some maintenance, but not so bad. So you can get the Dutch ovens at any store that sells camping gear, really, or even cook gear will have Dutch ovens. So one of the things that I learned when I first got them and coming up through Scouts, we used to cook right in the Dutch oven, and sometimes I still do if I'm gonna do biscuits or something like that. But after you do that, you have to clean it and season it, so it's really hard to do when you're camping. So what I've learned is to use Dutch oven liners. And I've got a couple different types here today. But they come specifically for Dutch ovens, as you can see, and they come in the sizes that your Dutch ovens come in. Or one of the convenient ones that's easy for packing is these paper Dutch oven liners, and they're made out of a wax paper, kind of like the wax paper you do cookies or something like that at home on. So you just put it into the Dutch oven, push it down, and then you can put your food right in there and cook in it. Fold it over, and then when you're done, this comes out. That way you can use your Dutch oven a couple of different times on a camping trip without having to worry about cleaning. The other type are these metal ones, which are aluminum foil, recyclable, and they can just, you get the right size and you just drop it right in and cook in there and it comes right out. And again, that way you can use your Dutch oven a couple of different times on a camping trip. And today, when we cook our meals, that's how we're gonna cook our meals today. Once you have your food in there, the Dutch ovens go right onto the fire. We'll show you in a little bit. You can put coals on top of them. You can cook them over the fire, but they're much like cooking something in a slow cooker at home. As long as you leave the lid on and you have a good seal, all the juices will stay inside there, and it's not impossible, but it's hard to really burn something in there, and all that heat gets equally distributed. So you cook the top, you cook the bottom, the sides, and it comes out a delicious meal. So you've spent the day at the park, out hiking, enjoying the day, especially on a nice day like today. You can hear the wind blowing, having to talk a little bit louder, but it's a little bit cool, so you want a nice hearty meal for dinner time. Doing a beef stew would be great at home, but it's just as easy to do when you're out at the park. And one of the cool things about it is you can do some of the prep work for this before you even show up. So our ingredients are obviously beef, and then I chopped up vegetables. So I've got my onions, I've got carrots, I've got potatoes down the bottom, mushrooms. You can throw in green peppers in there. You get some beef stew seasoning, and then you get some beef broth, and you mix it all into the Dutch oven and you cook it. Now it takes about 2 hours on the fire, hour and a half, 2 hours, but again, it's just like a crock pot. You can check on it as you're cooking, see when all the meat is done, and you're ready to go and enjoy a nice hearty meal after a day of enjoying the park. All right, so making the stew, it's just like making a lot of things. You're gonna put everything in there and mix it up. bit more broth. You don't want to take it all the way up to the top because it will boil over.
So you just eyeing it?
Yeah, I'm just watching it come up the side, and when I can see it about an inch down, I'll leave it there. So you can see kind of the broth level right down there. Then just make sure it gets good and stirred up. Put your lid on it. And off to the fire we go. All right, so it's time to put on our beef stew. Now, I got this years ago and love to use it, but you can set this on the grill on that side. If you can find something to hang from, great. I like to hang it because it'll allow me later on to put a second Dutch oven on here. So it's just gonna hang over the flames like that. I have this tool. I could grab it right now because we haven't put it on the fire, but cast iron, as you know, heats up. So you can't touch it after it's been on the fire for a little while. So they sell these tools, again, at any place you buy this kind of equipment. It's just a couple of dollars, but it is such a good investment because you can use a pair of pliers or something else, but for a few dollars you have a tool that is designed to take off your lid, put your lid back on, and to pick up your Dutch oven when it's done. So it's great. So when you're Dutch oven cooking, one of the things that you don't really want to worry too much about is how much heat is getting on it. Again, it's gonna cook in there. This is camping. There is no precise science to it. You get to check it, you get to stir it, you get to make it. You're gonna make mistakes, but you're gonna make great things and enjoy yourself along the way too. So put it on the fire. If after you look at it in a little while, you don't think it's getting enough heat, you can lower it. You can put more fire around it. If you think it's getting too much, you can raise it up, put it off to the side away from the fire. It does take a little bit of experimenting, but it's pretty fun to do.
Do you ever put charcoal on top of it?
Yes, I can put charcoal on top of it. We've got some briquettes down there, and maybe later on, if I lower this or need to, you can actually put firewood briquettes. Because it's cast iron, you can put anything right on top of it. And if you want to speed up your cooking, you can throw some more on top to help get the heat down in there. But I like to slow cook this like you would any kind of a stew at home.
So Paul, while we're waiting for this yummy stew to cook, what are some other things you have done before?
Oh, you know, I tend to use the Dutch ovens on the shoulders of the day for breakfast and for dinner. So breakfast, you can use it just like a frying pan and do something as easy as throwing your bacon in there, frying an egg in there. But I tend to do jumbles of things. So I'll put in sausage, eggs, green peppers, and make kind of, I don't want to call it a quiche because it's a mess when you get done. You can just stir it up to get everything cooked. You can throw all sorts of breakfast foods in there to flavor. You can put tomatoes on top. What we used to do on the end of the weekend on Sundays, we'd make a Sunday, we called it the Mountain Man breakfast. And it was essentially, we had a bunch of eggs, cheese, and some sausage, and would open our cooler. Anything else we hadn't eaten would go into the Dutch oven, and you cook it all up and eat that as you were packing up the camp. So it's really good for breakfast casseroles of any sort.
So you said lasagna. So are your noodles already pre-cooked, or are you using like those pre-cooked noodles?
Yeah, so you can do it either way because of the sauce that's in there. You put it in there, but it's easier to use them pre-cook them at home, so they're a little soft because it's a round pan and rectangular noodles, so it gets a little frustrating trying to break the noodles to camp. So usually you can just cook them at home so they're soft, and then layer your ingredients just like you would a regular lasagna. Throw it on in there, or spaghetti pie. Same thing. Instead of using lasagna noodles, just use spaghetti noodles, and it's scoop it right out. Family friend. Again, you can feed 6, 8, 10 people out of this if you have the comfort of that and dessert. So. Again, the lid's going to be mighty hot. So now we're going to do one of my favorite desserts. It's a dessert I learned in Scouts a long time ago. And we used to do peach cobbler all the time, and that's all I ever made. But then as I got a little bit older and got a little more experimental with my outdoor cooking, we tried other fruit fillings and cake mixes. And now every time I decide to make a cobbler, it's like a little adventure when I go to the grocery store. What kind of filling do I want? What kind of cake mixing do I want? And you put it in, cook in the Dutch oven, and people think it is the most wonderful thing and you've worked so hard, but you're not going to believe how easy this is to make. So our basic ingredients today We decided to go with apple, a little bit of seasonal filling. You can get any pie filling, but get the pie filling with the juices in there. You don't want dry apples in there. A little bit of butter, because butter makes everything better. And this is only the second time I've used this, but it's cinnamon swirl, so it's got some crumbs in there. Give it a little kick as you're cooking in there. So it makes a delicious cobbler. And then you can sprinkle in some nuts. I'm gonna sprinkle in some walnuts today. And we're gonna dump this all in here, stir it up just a little and put it on the fire, and we'll have a wonderful cobbler in no time at all. All right, so we have all of our ingredients here today. And to make a dump cobbler, there is absolutely no method to the madness. You can put them in there in just about any order. So what I like to do is I start with a little bit of butter on the bottom, just because I like butter, and then throw in some pie filling just to make sure I got a liquid bottom. But we're gonna stir it all up, so it doesn't really make too much of a difference. It's just, as you put it in, you're kind of stirring. If you put it in different layers, it makes the stirring a little bit easier than if you put it all in at one time and then the next ingredient. So we'll start with some apple, put in a couple cans of apple. Throw the rest of my butter in there. Take my big spoon. Stir it all up. I wish this camera had smell-o-vision because it already smells good. But Willy Wonka has not invented that yet. So like here, if you look in here, it still looks a little bit dry. You see the moisture is getting some of the cake. So what I'm gonna do is I'll take a pie can and I'll fill it up with some water and just add water to get the moisture level that I want. So I'm gonna throw some coals on top of this Dutch oven. Like I said, you can cook it so many different ways. I'm just gonna put this way some heat will go down. Then I'll spread out a little bit more and put it back on the fire as well. And that way it'll cook all around. Speed up the process a little bit. Well, I hope you enjoyed those meals today. As I said, Dutch oven's a great way to get outdoors and enjoy a meal from home. Easy to do, easy cleanup, and after a great day in the park, a nice way to end it. So thank you for joining me today. I'm gonna go now. It was nice seeing you all.